Welcome to the Channelchek Takeaway series. This program is provided for informational purposes only, and none of its content should be interpreted as a recommendation or solicitation to buy or sell securities. Investment decisions must be made by you or with the support of your financial advisor. A complete disclosure statement follows each presentation. OpGen, NASDAQ ticker symbol OPGN, is a precision medicine company harnessing the power of molecular diagnostics and bioinformatics to help combat infectious disease. OpGen, along with its subsidiaries Curetis and ARESdb, develop and commercialize molecular microbiology solutions to help guide clinicians with more rapid and actionable information about life-threatening infections to improve patient outcomes. Joining us today is OpGen President and CEO Oliver Schact. Following a brief introduction to the company, Oliver will be joined by Noble Senior Research Analyst Greg Aurand for a Q&A. Take it away, Oliver.
My name is Oliver Schact. I'm President and Chief Executive Officer of OpGen, and I'm going to be providing you a brief introduction to the company. Now, first off, OpGen is a publicly listed company, so I refer you to our forward-looking statements disclaimer. We're NASDAQ listed under the ticker OPGN. Now, what does OpGen do? OpGen is a molecular diagnostics company active in the infectious disease space for life-threatening bacterial infections and antimicrobial resistance. We're striving to innovate with precision medicine in the molecular microbiology space. To that end, we have easy-to-use platforms that are sample in to answer out with just minutes of hands-on time that basically deliver results within a few short hours, as opposed to the several days that current standard of care microbiology takes. We have next generation, even faster, smaller, and cheaper instruments under development. We're a commercial stage company, already FDA cleared, with multiple of our products available in the U.S. as FDA cleared in vitro diagnostics, as well as available in Europe as CE-marked products. And we have enabled a lot of our tools and technologies by smart bioinformatics using machine learning and artificial intelligence. We have some of the most comprehensive panels in the industry, with the broadest pathogen and antimicrobial resistance panels, again, FDA cleared. And I'm going to be walking through those various opportunities. Now, our lead product are on the Unyvero platform that is FDA cleared for our pneumonia panel. And we have recently completed our urinary tract infection clinical trial with excellent top-line data. That's the next one going into the FDA. And all of the products, i.e. pneumonia, urinary tract infection, joint infection, blood culture, and intra-abdominal, are all available in Europe and internationally as CE-marked products. If you look at the USP, what sets the Unyvero platform apart is three things. Number one, broader multiplexing, i.e. we can look at more analytes in a single sample in a single run than competing platforms. The second USP, and that is a derivative, we have the broadest panels of antimicrobial resistance markers in all of our products. So we not only detect the pathogens, but we also detect the clinically most relevant and the most comprehensive AMR marker panels. And thirdly, that has to do with some unique and proprietary technology and sample prep. We're able to work directly from native clinical sample, whether it's a urine, a respiratory sample, a piece of tissue, whatever it may be. There's no need to manually pre-treat your sample, no need to pre-culture it, straight from native sample in to answer out. Our FDA cleared Acuitas AMR Gene Panel is a very broad panel of 28 genetic AMR markers covering 26 different pathogens on 9 classes of antibiotics. Again, it's a first of its kind product. There is only one other product that's been FDA cleared, and that literally has 5 genetic AMR markers for a single class of antibiotics. So a true game changer. That got FDA cleared here in fall of 2021, and we're in the process of rolling it out, have the first couple of commercial customers in the US, and ramping that up as we speak. And this does not run on our Unyvero platform. It runs on the Thermo Fisher QuantStudio 5. Results are available within 2.5 hours. So again, significantly faster than classical microbiology culture. On the instrumentation side, everything in our space tends to get smaller, faster, and cheaper. We have a next generation Unyvero instrument under development. We actually have announced a recent partnership, R&D collaboration with one of the world's leading nonprofit organizations, FIND, out of Switzerland, who are funding a pilot program until the end of Q1 2023 to the tune of 700,000 euros. The instrument is fully developed. It is available. We're developing the first cartridges and assays, both in the area of blood cultures for low and middle income countries. That's under the FIND collaboration, as well as a panel for invasive joint infection that we intend to take forward into a clinical trial here in the United States. This platform, as opposed to the current Unyvero, will take anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes time to result, as opposed to 4 to 5 hours. So it's significantly faster. The instrument cost of goods at scale will be below 10,000. So again, much cheaper system, and cost of goods on the cartridges will be highly competitive. Looking at our ARESgenetics bioinformatics business, that's out of Vienna, Austria, and a wholly owned subsidiary, ARESgenetics, we use machine learning and artificial intelligence powered bioinformatics. We have what we believe to be one of the broadest and deepest genotype-phenotype correlation databases of proprietary genetic markers for antimicrobial resistance, coupled with phenotypic data on actual antibiotic susceptibility on over 100 antibiotics. So with over 102,000 pathogens, bacterial isolates that have been deep sequenced using NGS, and data on over 100 different antibiotics, we believe that to be one of the most comprehensive solutions available today. We have a cloud-based solution, AREScloud, that is available to researchers globally. All of the offerings here are research use only at this point. And we have a lab offering out of our Vienna, Austria lab for European and international customers. And we recently opened our Rockville, Maryland lab here at OpGen for the ARES services for next-gen sequencing out of our East Coast lab here in the United States. As a company, we have a dual commercial model. We're selling direct in the United States, our Unyvero product line, our Curetis product line, and we're using distribution partners for these sample to answer platforms around the world. In Europe, we have a pan-European partnership with Menarini. In China, we've had a long-standing partnership with Beijing Clear Bio, who have taken the Unyvero system through Chinese regulatory approval. And we're pending another small clinical study, an ancillary supplementary clinical study in pneumonia, to also get approval by the NMPA for our pneumonia panel on the Unyvero. Our ARES services, we market and sell those globally to key opinion leaders and researchers. If we look at the financials, we have reported recently preliminary financials on 2022 with total revenues, and that press release went out this week, of roughly 2.7 million. And again, these are unaudited numbers, 7.4 million cash at the end of December 2022. And we've also recently announced a $7.5 million public offering that was successfully closed here in the first couple of days of January. We've also previously talked about our European Investment Bank, or EIB, debt financing, where the first tranche, we're still paying that off in monthly installments through the end of April. And there is a second tranche in June of this year, and a third and final tranche in June of 2024. In terms of our capital structure, following the recent reverse stock split of 1-for-20, we now have roughly 2.9 million shares outstanding, and that's excluding the 2.6 million shares, respectively, pre-funded warrants that were issued as part of the January offering. Fully diluted, we have about 12.2 million shares outstanding. Looking at some of the exciting news flow and catalysts that are upcoming, obviously, the key focus for 2023 is on the commercial activities and selling the Acuitas AMR Gene Panel here in the United States, growing the commercial customer base for Unyvero, both in the US as well as internationally through our distribution network, bringing the Unyvero A30 platform through a key milestone or a series of milestones at the end of Q1 with FIND. And again, we've recently announced the successful completion of several milestones at the end of December already, but there's a couple more milestones coming up. Obviously, there's a number of partnering and potential licensing opportunities for our ARESgenetics business. Based on the urinary tract infection clinical trial data set that we announced top-line data on, we will be submitting that to the FDA. The goal is here to get it into the FDA by the end of Q1, and then eventually initiate our invasive joint infection clinical trial in the US and support our partner in executing the clinical study for the pneumonia panel in China. And of course, the goal of the reverse stock split was to regain compliance with NASDAQ's minimum bid price rule. And we should be hearing that we have indeed regained compliance here in short order. And we'll be providing a comprehensive business update in our upcoming full year earnings call, which shall be held towards the end of March. And with that, I would leave that as a brief introduction to OpGen. If you would like to receive any further information, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm Greg Aurand, Senior Research Analyst in Healthcare Services and Medical Devices at Noble Capital Markets. I'd like to welcome Oliver Schact, President and CEO of OpGen. Hello, Oliver, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for the presentation earlier.
Greg, pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.
Let's get right into some questions, if you don't mind, in terms of both the opportunity you see as well as the thought process I received from JPM Week. One area of focus I saw coming out of JPM is the increased focus on using bioinformatics, data, and AI to move more efficiently, both in terms of cost as well as outcomes. As you indicated in your presentation, OpGen has a proprietary AI platform in antimicrobial resistance. What benefits do you expect to see, or have you seen, from your next-gen sequencing ARES platform?
Absolutely. And look, we believe that's truly the next generation solution here, based on next-gen sequencing using smart machine learning algorithms and AI to predict not only antimicrobial resistance, but really based on the genetic profile of whole genome sequencing of bacterial isolates, or even in the future, native clinical specimen, predicting actual antibiotic susceptibility. This today is being used predominantly in settings for infection control and infection prevention at major academic and research institutions around the world. Looking at outbreak patterns and outbreak monitoring. And what we have done, and we've teamed up and partnered our ARES database and ARES technologies with the likes of Sandoz, part of Novartis, on the pharmaceutical side, where they're using our ARES technology to look at some of their existing generic antibiotics and how to, prevent the emergence of more and more resistance in certain clinical settings and indication areas. We have teamed up with QIAGEN, who have taken a license to certain parts of the ARES database and are using that as part of their research offering and their suite of bioinformatics solutions. We have also monetized parts of the data asset to some of the leading microbiology corporates that have taken a license to certain subsets and small subsegments. So we have, on the one hand, our service offerings out of our labs in Vienna and our lab in Rockville, Maryland, where we're offering rapid turnaround isolate sequencing service and the use of our own proprietary bioinformatics. But if customers and partners and researchers have their own next-gen sequencing capabilities on site, they equally can basically upload their FASTQ files from their sequencing into the AREScloud, and using our AI and algorithms, run it against the totality of the ARES data asset, which again, at 102,000 isolates deep sequenced and data on over 100 antibiotics, is what we believe to be the state of the art in the industry. So that's sort of the use cases, and we definitely see that accelerating and expanding, beginning with the large academic centers and research institutions.
Well, thank you. I don't think we can understate or overstate, antimicrobial resistance issues in the marketplace today. And I think this is an excellent platform for researchers as well as pharmaceutical firms to attack this problem going forward. Excuse me. Last month, you released strong results from a Unyvero urinary tract infection panel clinical trial testing for antimicrobial resistance and pathogens. And what does that mean going forward, though, given the strong results?
I mean, again, those results were phenomenal. We have seen an overall average sensitivity of 96.4% at overall average specificity of 97.4%. So this is really strong data. The team is currently in the process, and you're talking about a prospective multi-center clinical trial at 4 trial sites here in the United States, exceeding a total of over 1,800 patient samples that were run as part of this. And we not only have the Unyvero data from the Unyvero UTI cartridge, we also have the local microbiology results from each of the 4 trial sites. We have centralized and standardized microbiology culture at a central reference lab. And we'll also be submitting to the FDA additional next-gen sequencing data. So the team is going through, as you can imagine, you're looking at tens of thousands, if not frankly hundreds of thousands of data points through the final analysis and the detailed preparation of the FDA submission filing, which we anticipate getting towards the FDA here around the end of Q1 2023. And what we expect happening then, because this is the first time that a cartridge-based sample to answer UTI product will be going to the FDA. There is none available today on any other platform, nor are we aware of any other sample to answer platform company having run a clinical trial, let alone submitted to the FDA. So it will be a true first. So we anticipate this to be deemed a de novo 510K. And under the de novo process, we would envisage the FDA to come back with certain questions, potential additional information requests, and then it goes into what's called an interactive review. And between the FDA and us, every time they come back with questions, the sort of review clock stops, and the ball's then in our court, and we have to address those questions. Again, look, we've taken 3 products through the FDA successfully in recent years, 2 on the Unyvero platform. So the FDA is intimately familiar with the Unyvero instrument system and the cartridge and the basic underlying technology. It's just another clinical application assay. But still, it has to go through that, and we're just hopeful that with COVID ramping down, the FDA is no longer bogged down and has massive backlogs. But that will remain to be seen. We're confident that we're going to do everything on our part to push it through the regulatory review process as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And then, of course, the goal is to get FDA clearance and add this to the list of available products that our commercial team here in the United States can sell and market directly. Now, the UTI product works. We know that because we've had it as a CE-marked in vitro diagnostic product for a number of years. It is already commercially available in Europe through our partner Menarini. So that's why we have all the confidence that this is a strong product with a high unmet clinical need that is going to be addressed on this platform for the first time.
Excellent. I think, again, the time savings involved in terms of using these panels can't be overstated here either. And I think it's an excellent product going with an outlook that's tremendous. Moving to your testing platform, Unyvero A30, you recently triggered a milestone from FIND. And can you discuss what that means and what can also be expected next going forward there?
Absolutely. I mean, this truly is our next generation instrument. It is significantly smaller. So it's an 8-inch cube as opposed to a 20-inch cube. Think of it as a $10,000 instrument as opposed to a $50,000 instrument. Turnaround time from sample in to answer out can be as fast as 30 minutes to maybe about an hour for most tests, compared to the 4 to 5 hours that the current Unyvero platform takes. So it's smaller, faster, cheaper. The milestones we recently met and announced that we met here at the end of 2022 involved the definition of a panel for blood culture testing for low and middle income countries, looking at various aspects of specifications for a tailored and dedicated touchscreen cockpit, as well as some of the prep work. We're working towards a series of key milestone deliverables towards the end of Q1. And those essentially have to do with demonstrating the actual availability of a prototype cockpit and a prototype assay on an A30 cartridge that can be manufactured, can be run, can produce data, with a view, and that's the exciting part, that of course FIND's whole raison d'etre as a nonprofit is to bring these modern, rapid, easy to use platforms to low and middle income countries. Mm-hmm. They have determined that the A30 has all the characteristics of a good value for money, reasonably cheap, robust, sturdy, and very easy to use platform. So in the next phase, potentially, FIND and our Curetis team that is developing the Unyvero A30 could collaborate in a significantly broader and deeper setting, where the objective of that next phase would possibly be to take that product and that cartridge through clinical development, clinical trials, and certain regulatory approvals for some of these low and middle income countries. We would obviously do that in collaboration with FIND, and we would anticipate negotiating a follow-on contract to the one that we currently have in place. Again, it's going to be subject to having strong data in these milestones that are coming up towards the end of Q1. So it's going to be a key phase here in the first quarter, making sure that we stay on time, we stay on track, and we deliver the strongest possible data set that is convincing to then enter into discussions and negotiations with FIND about a possible and potential future deal that would, bring in additional funding and bring the product and the platform towards these low and middle income countries and ultimately make them commercially available in those markets.
Excellent. Yeah, these milestones are tremendously important to development for you, and it's great that you're working with FIND on this basis. Just moving more to more general a question in terms of the post-JPM week that I went to. I'd like to get your thoughts on what you perceive are the 2023 and beyond challenges for OpGen, and if you can, speak in general to the life sciences and healthcare space as well.
Well, I mean, I've been in molecular diagnostics now for almost 25 years, and certainly the market conditions out there in the capital market, both for publicly traded companies such as OpGen, but also for privately held biotech companies, is tough. And in some aspects, it feels like back in 2001. So the key challenge is going to be access to capital, making sure that OpGen specifically, but the biotech industry at large, is properly funded and financed to truly advance the programs and do the clinical trials and reach those key catalysts and milestones to generate value and unlock that. That will require the availability of sufficient funding. I mean, we did announce the successful closing of a $7.5 million public offering here early in January. However, it is also clear that that money is going to take us so far, towards the summer of this year, but we'll definitely need to access additional capital, be it through partnering, licensing, be it through the monetization of certain assets, be it through non-dilutive funding provided by potentially the likes of FIND, and also possibly, of course, future equity or debt capital raises. So that's certainly one of the biggest challenges, because again, I believe we've de-risked our platforms and offerings. I mean, we've run clinical trials, we've gotten FDA approvals, we've gotten European CE marks, we've scaled up manufacturing. The other key challenge, in addition to capital, is always the commercial challenge, and true for not just for OpGen, for any diagnostics company out there, is the adoption curve. And of course, we're coming out of a COVID world where labs for the last 2.5, 3 years have been completely inundated with huge volumes of COVID testing. We've seen a tremendous amount of staff turnover in a lot of clinical labs, hospital labs around the country, especially in infectious disease. So there's a shortage of staff. In a lot of settings, budgets have been depleted by COVID testing. So again, the challenge of bringing any new platform, doesn't matter, how good it is and how much validated, it's really convincing hospitals that collectively we as societies cannot afford not to act on this challenge of antimicrobial resistance, because it truly is that silent pandemic that is underlying and has been underlying the COVID pandemic. And if we continue on this trajectory, we'll put ourselves in a situation where, whether it's the next 10 or 20 years, but we'll move ourselves into a situation where antibiotics will no longer work effectively. And then a lot of the accomplishments of modern medicine, whether it is cancer therapy, organ transplants, major surgeries, will become that much more complicated because they all rely on having effective and working antibiotics. And so that, to us, is sort of one of the key challenges, driving the adoption on the commercial front, while accessing the amount of capital that's required to do so successfully.
Yeah, I agree with your commentary there. Post-COVID, in the past couple of years, healthcare facilities have really struggled during the pandemic, and it's been difficult to introduce new product lineups, new platforms to these facilities as they struggle with staffing issues and focusing on the COVID treatments instead. I really appreciate the comments you had today. I want to thank you for those. For the viewers who are watching this, I think it's worth a look to look at the company OpGen, ticker OPGN. They have several news flow items coming up in 2023, and they also had several items, noteworthy items in 2022 that I think a lot of investors overlooked. For instance, in 2022, you opened your first NGS services this past year and signed up the first customers. Going forward, I expect new customers in 2023. New opportunities for ARES partnering and licensing opportunities exist as well. We look forward to the commercial rollout of your hospital pneumonia and lower respiratory tract infections Unyvero panel and the Acuitas AMR Gene Panel in the U.S. Further updates on the clinical trial side for UTI and IGI products, Unyvero. Those are important updates, and I think it will trigger, some additional interest for these products if we can get past the COVID situation entirely. Your testing platform milestones that you received already through FIND on Unyvero A30, I expect there'll probably be some additional milestones in 2023 and beyond, as you mentioned. And I think this is a really important thing, is that investors really should take a look at what has been achieved by the company despite the setbacks in this COVID and macro environment we've experienced the last couple of years, and take a look at what the opportunity exists for the company going forward. So given the news flow and the catalyst scene and the expected rollout for commercial opportunities, I invite viewers again to take a closer look at OpGen. Again, the ticker is OPGN. I want to thank you very much for viewing this interview, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then Channelchek truly is your tree. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series lunches, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Microcap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since Channelchek is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why Channelchek is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.